communication is a love letter. I don't know you, but I see you. I care. Connection doesn't start with speaking. It starts with compassion. Today, there are more people on the planet than ever before. Yet there are lonely people. As humans, we need and crave connection. We want to make an impact. But how do you do it? According to Psychology Today, the word compassion comes from calm, meaning with, passion, meaning suffering. It means to suffer together. And beyond that, to have the motivation to help. When I was at UCLA, my English professor gave us a writing assignment, an essay on how has your life been valuable? And I thought, how could my life be valuable or remarkable? At 18 years of age, I'd spent the first 16 years of my life trying to keep my mom alive. So the focus hadn't been upon me. I approached him and said, I can't write this assignment. He asked why. I said, I'm not the one to judge my life. He looked at me and said, who should? And my response, being rather cheeky, was, I don't know, maybe God? He replied, well, God's not in my class. If you want to pass, you need to write it. I was frustrated, thinking what a silly assignment this is. But I was a good student. I wanted a good grade, so I sat with this for a while. Nothing came. And then all of a sudden, an insight. Since I am here, I am taking up space and time. I have the opportunity to make an impact each time I engage or connect. My mom was a paranoid schizophrenic. And so the reality that she lived in was not the same as mine. A lot of my childhood was spent trying to figure out where she might be. At the same time, where she wasn't. There was one time. I was 12. There were helicopters flying over the house, and she was scared that they were coming to get her. My father did what he always did and said, Ginny, you're crazy. They're not coming to get you. It's all in your head. But I remember watching my mom shaking. My father's words were not helping. So instead of telling her that her reality was not real, I asked myself, what does she need? She needed to feel safe. So I grabbed my blue blankie. I threw it over her head. I hugged her and I said, they're not going to get you, Mommy. They're not going to get you. I held her shaking for a really long time. When she finally came out, she looked up at me with eyes that said, you believe me. I didn't. I didn't believe her reality. But I did believe she believed her reality. And in that moment, I realized compassion is the bridge. What if we look at compassion as the foundation for all healthy relationships and interactions? I'm a psychotherapist. For 27 years, I have been sharing that compassion is the bridge. Sadly, my mom didn't choose to continue her life. She ended that connection for me, for everyone, when I was 16. Losing hers, why I'm a psychotherapist. Not that I can save or reach everyone, but I can certainly try. Do you know those precious moments where you have a powerful connection with someone? I had one of these when I was leaving my office. I saw a homeless man standing at the street corner, so I rolled down my window, offered him a granola bar and some money. He looked at me and said intently, "God bless you." His words stirred me. And as I looked back, he gestured as if to say, "I've got you. Remember." That feeling, that glow, it stayed with me for a long time. My whole body felt energized. It was like I had connected with the supreme love that connects all of us, regardless of whether we are doctors or scientists or homeless. I'll never forget that man. My question is, when a moment like this happens in your life, what do you do? Do you choose to allow yourself to experience it? You've probably had it happen with your partner, your child, or your dog. But what about a total stranger? By being compassionate to another person, perhaps someone we don't even know, we build a bridge of connection that will be remembered by both of us. I had a gentleman come in and see me. He was 45, struggled with social phobia. He was lonely and wanting to be in a relationship. I was impressed he reached out, because people with social phobia often avoid talking to strangers, including therapists. When he showed up, he was wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. When he sat down, he didn't take off either. When I mentioned this, he said he was uncomfortable removing them. He didn't want to be seen. I respected his request for privacy. I thanked him for coming in and for his courage. And he began sharing his story, the hurts and humiliations he'd endured from his past lover. She body shamed him. She told him he was hideous. Between you and me, he looked just fine, like an average guy. With deep compassion, I said he'd been wronged. I shared that I saw him with different eyes. I asked him, if I were to turn my chair to the side and not look at him, would he be willing to take off his sunglasses? He hesitated a little bit and said, yes. So I turned my chair. He took off his sunglasses. We continued sharing. Next, I asked if we could glance at each other briefly without making eye contact. He agreed. It was my willingness to care about his needs and his fears that helped him to trust me. We didn't make eye contact in that first session, but we did begin connecting. He said it was hard, and he wanted to come back. And as we wrapped up a further session, he said he wanted to stop by a bar, possibly meet a woman he might like to date. I asked if he was going to wear his hat. He smiled a little bit, looked me in the eye, and said, no. When he came back in, he was excited. He had spoken to several women. He even had the phone number from one of them, but he was disappointed because he hadn't heard from her. So I said, "Does she have your number?" He said, "No." I said, "She's waiting on you." I didn't hear from him for a few weeks, so I reached out. He'd started dating that girl. She was shy, so he was using the compassion approach he'd learned in our sessions. She was starting to open up. When it comes to compassion and connection, the bridge is built on both sides. It starts with one of us offering compassion, which creates a possibility of connection. It's a gradual step-by-step process where we need to respect each other's boundaries. Sometimes it's harder for us to extend the bridge. Sometimes it's harder for us to receive it. But with patience and compassion, we can learn to build connection. Okay. Now that you are aware of this dynamic, you are going to see opportunities in your own life to offer compassion to others. You're also going to better recognize when someone is offering theirs to you. I see you, and you see me. Compassion is the bridge between us. Who do you know who could use some? Whose name just popped into your head? What will you offer them? What will you commit to? Maybe a blanket, or a word, or a full-hearted smile. Or who do you not yet know, but you could offer compassion the next time you're at the market, or the dry cleaner, or the DMV. We bring value to ourselves and others with our awareness and our attention. That college essay, how has your life been valuable? Wasn't silly. It was brilliant. What if you let yourself care a little bit more and look for who's wanting connection with you? What if you take that moment and look into another's eyes without pulling away? Initially, it might be challenging, but the more we learn to open ourselves up to others, the less lonely we feel, and the more connected we are, not only to them, but to ourselves. My late husband had the most beautiful blue eyes. When I looked into them, I didn't feel lost. Because when I looked deeply into his eyes, I felt found. Communication is a love letter. I see you and you see me. Compassion is the bridge. Thank you.